Hello everyone, Fred here from the CC Network, ready once again to review an old wrestling pay-per-view as part of the Friday Flashback series. As it was my 24th birthday yesterday, I thought I'd give myself a nostalgic present by reviewing the first ever WWE DVD I ever bought, Judgment Day 2002. Now, what do you think made me want to buy this DVD exactly? Well, with a Hell in a Cell and a hair versus hair match on the same card, why would you not want to buy it? Seriously. Then again, I had never actually given this show a good look over with my analytical goggles on, and with no urgent reviews that need addressing in the next month or so, I thought this would be the perfect show to do, as well as it being the first ever WWE branded event after the massive name change and lawsuit. So, would the WWE era start off on a great, massive leap towards greatness, or would it just wallow down? Well, we're going to have to find out. Judgment Day 2002 was held on the 19th of May 2002 at the Gaylord Entertainment Center in Nashville, Tennessee, with 14,521 fans turning up for it, which, for a venue that could hold 19,000, is a little bit irritating. Broken by 12 Stones served as the theme song, which is one of my favourite pay-per-view themes by one of my favourite rock bands, which, again, I can thank the DVD for getting them into the first place. Right, with that out of the way, let's get this thing started. First, we have the Intercontinental Championship match kicking off the show, with Eddie Guerrero defending against Rob Van Dam. Now, Van Dam won the title at WrestleMania, with Guerrero winning at Backlash after returning to the company in a very controversial fashion. And with RVD, it's his rematch. He has to try and win it back from the incumbent champion. Sounds simple, right? Anyway, both exchange offense by flipping over each other's runs, with Rob Van Dam keeping early control before Eddie leaves the ring. He tries to regain it, but RVD again dodges into a turnbuckle shot and leg drops for 2. RVD then flips over Eddie, countering a head scissors into a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker for 2. Van Dam then focuses the back, locking in a Mexican surfboard stretch, not before elbowing the back as well. The crowd get fully behind it as Eddie's shoulders go down to the mat for 2. Eddie's then thrown out of the hold back first as RVD hits a standing moonsault for 2. Eddie fights out, controls momentum, and repeatedly hits RVD in the face, controlling it with a very methodical pace in this area here. RVD then hits a monkey flip to put momentum back in his control again, following by shoulder thrusts to the back, which I love, and another monkey flip and an electric chair rope guillotine, as well as a rolling thunder. This guy really wants to beat him up for 2. Eddie Guerrero counters into a suplex, into a roll-up for 2, and eats a wheel kick shortly after getting up. Eddie stops RVD going for the frog splash and hits a turnbuckle powerbomb. Eddie goes for the frog splash of his own and misses. RVD then goes for a 5-star frog splash and also misses. Both men then struggle to their feet, alternate leapfrogs before a crossbody for RVD gets 2. A rake to the eye and some uppercuts by Eddie is countered by RVD into a backslide for 2. The wheel kick is then countered by Eddie into a backslide, and he gets his feet on the ropes to get the win and retaining the title in 10 minutes and 17 seconds. Now, the match was surprisingly quick, with momentum shifting easily, and with RVD working the back, it told a decent story through it. However, RVD, looking certain to win all the way through, having Eddie get the dirty win at the end was a very anticlimactic finish, and especially considering it came out of nowhere, it just didn't feel right. And you couple that with a crowd that was muted for half of it due to Eddie's offense, you get a match that was entertaining to watch, but could have been a lot more than it actually delivered with, especially knowing the competitors here. However, it's a 2¼ star match, which is a pretty decent way to start the show if you ask me. Next, the Women's Championship match with Trish Stratus of Raw defending against Stacy Keibler of SmackDown. Stratus won the women's title a week earlier in a tag team match with Bubba Ray Dudley against Jazz and Steven Richards. Vince McMahon, being assisted by Reverend Devon, desired to have his personal assistant Miss Keibler become the women's champion, trusting Devon to, quote-unquote, do the right deed, so to speak. Stratus ambushed Keibler in a swimsuit contest on SmackDown a couple of days prior, setting this inter-brand match up nicely. Now, before this match began, Devon and his deacon Batista promised McMahon that his half-brother would not be at ringside in Trish's corner, and however, lo and behold, he is there, because why wouldn't he be? And this should make this match a little more interesting. Stacey is distracted by Devon allowing Stratus to brawl to start, but she runs into a stray leg and a backdrop by Keibler for 2. Trish hits a clothesline and looks in a Boston Crab, or tries to, because Stacey's legs are so long she can't arch them in properly, which looks quite funny, but it is also very, very sloppy, before they both alternate roll-ups for 2. Trish hits a neckbreaker for 2, before nailing forearms and a chick kick to get Keibler out of the ring. Bubba's then laughing at ringside, pointing, whilst Keibler is tantruming out there. She then slaps him right across the face to the crowd's pleasure because they know what's coming. They know that with those eyes, it's going to be Keibler being powerbombed into another lifetime. Stratus also wants to see this, but Batista comes up from behind and scoop slams her. Yes, because back then, men are allowed to attack the women. Seriously, equality has taken a decline over the years, and I look at this and think, yeah, that wouldn't happen nowadays because apparent equality doesn't exist. Anyway, let's get back to the match at hand as Keibler gets back into the ring and covers for 2. Stratus is then whipped but counters with a beautiful bicycle kick. Stratus is then tripped up by Batista. Keibler then misses a boot, accidentally running into Batista, allowing for Trish to get the roll-up and the win in a quick 2-minute and 54-second bout. And of course, afterwards, Bubba gets beaten and assaulted and powerbombed through a table by the Deacon Batista as they pray to the heavens and hold Stacey's arms aloft. Now, okay, I'm going to point this out here. The Dudley Saga did add a little bit of intrigue into an otherwise boring match, which apart from them and a nice bicycle kick was nothing worth of note in retrospect. And at just under 3 minutes, it did exactly what it needed to do. It caused animosity in the Dudley household to increase more, and Trish retained the title she'd only just won a week or so before. So, inevitably, nothing that this match really did in ring came through, but at least it delivered somewhere in story. But when you look at it, it doesn't have a lot going for it. So I'm going to be a little cruel, but also it proves its point. It's a 0 match. It's a 0 rated match. And I'm going to tell you now, this isn't the first one we see tonight, and I think you all know, if you've watched this show, where I'm going with it. Next up, we have an unusual tag team match with the Hardy Boys taking on the next big thing, Brock Lesnar, and Paul Heyman. It seems like a mismatch, doesn't it? Anyway, let's take a look at where this comes from. The Hardys got decimated by Lesnar during his match with Jeff at Backlash and continued to defy their Destroyer's intent to completely kill them, which made Paul Heyman a little bit irritated. They were about to beat Lesnar in a tag team matchup, which Heyman pulled the ref out of the ring and got him disqualified, and then said, you know what, I'm annoyed with you guys. You know what, I'm going to put you guys in a tag team match with Lesnar at Judgment Day, and I am going to be your partner. Yeah. Lesnar is going to be teaming with his manager in a match. It seems ridiculous, doesn't it? But anyway, if you are watching this match, or if you want to go watch this match, please listen to JR's commentary throughout. It is wonderful what he says about Paul Heyman, and you think to yourself, why couldn't JR do this more often? It's fantastic. Anyway, Jeff jumps over the ropes before the bell rings, leaving both men alone with Heyman before Lesnar ambushes them as the bell goes. Lesnar then rams Jeff into the turnbuckle and hits some shoulder thrusts. Jeff kicks and tries to regain some offense, but is thrown into an overhead belly-to-belly, which you know makes me mark out like a motherfucker. Jeff gets out of a front power slam before tagging Matt in. Matt then hits a running forearm, but again gets corralled into the corner. The crowd is chanting Goldberg as Matt is drilled by a front power slam, followed by a rib breaker. More shoulder thrusts continue before Matt counters into a tornado DDT to gain momentum and tag in Jeff. The girls in the audience collectively lose themselves off the hot tag as he wails on Lesnar and hits a whisper in the wind and a sit-out jawbreaker. Both then hit a double leg drop and poetry in motion before taking Lesnar out to the floor. Heyman is all alone as they run right for him outside the ring. Matt wails on him in the corner. They both hit poetry in motion on the hapless manager, but Lesnar then drags Matt out, catches Jeff off a swanton bomb, but rolls through for 2. Lesnar catapults Jeff into Matt on the apron and then hits the F5. Heyman is sweaty and beaten, but he begs Lesnar to give him the tag. He then slips through the ropes, funnily, crawls over and covers for the 3 in 4 minutes and 47 seconds. Now, I will give JR and this match some credit. For what little it had, it was incredibly entertaining. However, when you look at this match really on an in-ring front, there isn't that much to offer at all. If not for the wrestlers involved and the progression that this match had for Lesnar's character, it isn't really that much to go on at all. And it was short, sweet, and to the point, which, for a dominant monster squash, is about all they could have done. Because without JR's commentary, this match would have fallen. I swear to God, I'm not repeating anything from it. Just go watch it, you'll see what I mean. Anyway, this match had some decent storytelling as a result of JR's commentary and what little it had to offer in ring, with making it aiming at the pin even better, but it just wasn't much. It's a half-star match, but my God was it entertaining, which, an entertaining half-star match? I would love to see WWE do that today, because it would be so good to see. I mean, seriously, who would have thought a half-star match with little to offer be worth the time, even in the littlest form? It's one thing we can hope for, but it'll never happen. Next is the Handicap match, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Ric Flair and The Big Show. Now, the Raw owner was in a rivalry with Austin over his drafting to Raw, and it culminated with Flair screwing Austin for the Undisputed title match that would have happened at this pay-per-view, which went to The Undertaker. Big Show was placed in tandem with Austin after Flair admitted he'd made a mistake by not noticing the foot on the rope, and he thought all was well, but wasn't the case, because Big Show screwed Austin and joined the NWO instead, and the reason being is so good, it actually puts now modern day storytelling in WWE to shame. Because listen to this. Big Show had main evented WrestleMania 2000 in Austin's absence due to neck surgery, but since Austin returned to the company, not only had Austin main evented 2 WrestleManias, Big Show had felt that his main event position in the company had been taken away from him, because since Austin had returned, not only was Big Show on a very low hardcore triple threat at one Mania, he was in the world at the next one, in his words, picking the fans' ugly kids up and pretending to have a good time instead of being in the position he believed he should have been. This is 2 years in the making, everybody. That's fantastic. Nowadays, you wouldn't even get that. Anyway, Flair used this NWO advantage to his, advantage by putting Austin in tag team matches week after week to even up some playing field and weaken him, which he did with a steel chair to his knees, proclaiming that this tag team handicap match was going to happen. And if that wasn't enough, it gets even more incredible because Austin screwed Flair out of a world title match against Hulk Hogan, ruining that dream match we all want to see in WWE's ring. So, there's a lot to really take in, and there's a lot of bad blood brewing. Let's see where it goes from here. Austin goes right at both men from the off, taking them both out with backdrops and stomps, attempting to put figure fours on both men, but each time it's interrupted either by Flair or Big Show, depending on who is getting done. Austin's just getting really annoyed at this point. He runs out, gets a steel chair, ready to whack all sense, and Charles Robinson stops him. Austin then gives the chair to him, goes out and gets another one, but again Robinson stops him. So what does Austin do? No, he doesn't disregard him, he just sits down on the chair, flips him off, and then gets right back to it. Superb. Anyway, Austin wants Flair. Show tries to stop him from getting in the ring, but Flair insists, you know what? He wants a fight with me, I'm going to give it. Both men then scale up as Austin wails on the Raw owner before he escapes. Austin grabs a beer, ready to go, but again, Robinson stops him. Mini Nate's doing his job, I guess. Flair gets restless as both men lock up. He really wants to fight him in a good traditional wrestling match. Flair then misses a clothesline and is back body dropped, which, as you know, brings out the traditional selling. Flair then thumbs the eye to regain control, followed by obvious chops. Austin then controls to what chance with his own chops before another back body drop. 10 punches is counted into an atomic drop, which is also counted into another clothesline, and now Big Show enters the fold. However, Austin, he does some press-ups to piss him off, thinking, hey, I'm doing all the work here, what the hell are you doing? He then eats a couple of panhandle chops and goes down. However, Austin, he won't back down from this as he then wails on the Big Show, but Show rebounds with a big boot off an Irish whip. Flair is then tagged back in, lines up some closed fist punches, and distracts Robinson, nailing Austin with a low blow. Then again, he is the Raw owner, I bet he could have gotten away with it even if he couldn't. nonetheless. Both men alternate chops as Flair goes to the top but is thrown off and then had his mud hole stomped thoroughly. Show then comes in, slams Austin down, stopping the match's flow as Flair covers for 2. Flair again goes back in with some punches and chops, keeping Austin cornered. Flair then kicks the knee, which of course he weakened with the chair weeks before, and then Show goes for it too with some elbows and some knee slams. And then Flair goes for the figure 4, but Austin somehow gets out. But not for long, as Flair locks in it properly this time. The crowd are getting behind Austin as he flips the lock, but eats a back elbow from the Big Show. Austin then backslides Flair for 2, but again, Flair has the momentum, with both men alternating chops again. Austin hits a spinebuster, locks in a figure 4, but again, the Big Show stops it. It's not good for him, is it? Show is then rammed into Austin's boot before he hits a Fez press from the top rope, which I love, and then does the same to Flair and a low blow before a spinebuster for 2 as again Show breaks it up. Show is then hit by a stunner as X-Pac from the NWO comes out. Austin goes for another stunner as X-Pac nails Show, stunner for X-Pac, and then a stunner for Flair as Austin gets the 3 and the win in 15 minutes and 36 seconds. Now, before I really talk about this, let me point this out. This match, despite what all I've just said there, had very little going on move-wise in almost 16 minutes. But it made up so well for the psychology. Now, that leg, Flair did tackle it a bit too late in the match for it to really have any effect. But when you look at Austin's facial expressions, Flair's facial expressions, everything that went on in this and the actions towards each other, it made this lackluster encounter thoroughly entertaining to watch, and it got the crowd emotionally invested. The match was stop-start, and it did take the crowd a little while to actually get into it, but by the time this ended, they were rocking their socks off. The momentum shifted so much that by the end of it, I really couldn't tell who was going to win here, despite knowing the result. So when Austin got the win, it felt it was really well made and well built too. And not to mention, they kept Big Show's offense to a minimum, which meant that the match, already being slow from this stop-start momentum, would not have been made slower as a result, which was the icing on top of the cake. Now, overall, this is a match that was made by its subtle psychology, and honestly, without it, it would have been a lot worse. And despite that good thing, the match doesn't hold up in terms of its move variety and everything else in between, so it factors against it, and it's a 2.5-star match as a result. It's not the best match I've ever seen, but it will keep you on your tenterhooks, that's for sure. Next, we have the hair versus hair match, as Kurt Angle takes on Edge. Now, following their bland WrestleMania matches against Kane and Booker T respectively, both men face each other at Backlash in a battle of one-upsmanship, following both men trading unsavory pictures and insults at each other. Now, following Edge ruining the introduction of Angle's new t-shirt, which bore the "You suck" chant out of it, which is wonderful, they agreed to fight again, this time with both men putting their hair on the line, in what I consider the most materialistic feud I have ever seen. Nonetheless, Edge had his hair cut on SmackDown the week before, so the image you can see on screen right now should dictate where this match result is going to go, because it is obviously, in hindsight, extremely obvious where it went. Now, both men trade lockups to start, with Edge rolling off a whip for 2 as both men stare each other down. Edge gets Angle out of the ring, nailing him and baseball sliding him very quickly. Angle then stomps Edge down as he gets back in the ring, but is hit by a back body drop. Angle's arms are tied up in the ropes as Edge hits a spear. Edge goes for a second one, but Angle, this is beautiful, he's on the apron, he gets him and hits an overhead belly-to-belly to the outside. You know me, I'm already a huge fan of overhead belly-to-bellies, but oh my god, so good. Anyway, Angle keeps Edge grounded, stomping and punching in the corner before resorting to chops, before Edge throws some of his own. Out of the corner, Angle hits a lovely spinebuster for 2. Angle then pushes Edge's head into the ropes, stomping at it some more. Edge counters with a running elbow before a DDT by Angle for 2. Angle then locks in a side headlock, fights out, let me repeat that again, fights out, but Angle pulls the hair to keep him down. pins off 2 off a suplex before reverting again to a front facelock. Edge fights out, hitting a vicious back body drop. Both men look exhausted as they struggle to their feet. Edge then hits a flying forearms and a clothesline, and then the Edge-O-Matic for 2. Angle then hits an overhead belly to belly. He goes for it. Yeah, but he's then shaken afterwards. He's showing the physical drain, and I love it. He runs at Edge, but lands on the apron. Edge then baseball slides Angle to the floor before hitting a crossbody over the top rope. Back in the ring, Angle tries the top rope belly to belly, but then ends up missing and being pushed down, and Edge hits a lovely missile dropkick for 2. Angle hits a lovely German suplex, but again is showing the wear of the match as he gets up. A front facelock is again applied, but rolled through for 2. Edge hits the execution, goes to the top, but Angle gets up and finally hits his top rope belly to belly. He crawls and covers, but Edge somehow kicks out. Edge hits a super kick. Angle goes to the second rope as Edge hits a sick-looking DDT off that second rope for 2. Alternating leapfrogs has Edge hitting a spear, but Angle's dodges and the ref gets hit instead. Angle slightly botches the German suplex, which looks for a sick landing. He gets a steel chair, but Edge then spears him, covers, but of course Brian Hebner is still out here. This is insane. Edge then lines up another spear, but runs into a boot, and then an Angle slam is countered as Edge hits another spear, but again, Angle just kicks out and the crowd are losing it here. Edge then counters the... let me try that again. Edge kicks out... I'm really lost here. See, you can't tell what I'm doing here, but I'm losing it, and I'm trying to read from a script while recording. It's insane. Anyway, Edge counters the Angle slam, but Angle hits him with a spear of his own. He then hits the Angle slam, but again, Edge is kicking out. It's insane here. The straps then go down as the ankle lock is wrapped in, but Edge then counters with an enziguri, which, to the already exhausted Angle, should really hit him down for 6. Angle doesn't really do much as he locks in the hold again. Edge pushes Angle to the ropes and rolls him up for the 3 at 15 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, knowing the quality of these two men, they gave a technical back-and-forth match that used near falls to great dramatic effect while retaining consistent pace throughout, which I wholly expected. However, despite that, the match was lacking something. I can't really put my finger on it, but for a match with such stakes, it took a while for the crowd to get invested, and it took its time building up to the desperation of both men to retain their hair. Especially in the early going where, of course, they were stuck in rest holds to wear each other's bodies down, the camera spent more time cutting to the barber's chair than it did to focus on the match. Which, it was annoying, but then again, by the time it finished, the match reached a natural climax, but it could have been a little bit shorter to not have it feel a little bit elongated. I would even say that the chase and getting Angle to have his head shaved afterwards, which lasted until the main event, was actually more enjoyable as a whole thing than the intense match was, but then again, the match was still entertaining and full enough as a match to warrant a 3-star rating. It could have been more, but if someone could figure out exactly what that it factor it was missing was, I would really appreciate it. I really would, because this match wasn't bad. It was actually very good, but it needed a little bit extra, and I don't really know what that is at all, which is disappointing. Next up, we have the Hell in a Cell match pitting Triple H against Chris Jericho. Now, following Triple H's title defeat at Backlash, Jericho exacted his revenge for the WrestleMania defeat with the help of The Undertaker to stop Triple H's rematch from happening. The onslaught continued when Jericho and 5 men beat Triple H down, with Vince McMahon watching over it. Of course, he had declared that Triple H, his soon-to-be ex-son-in-law, was a dissident employee for not really playing ball with McMahon's new SmackDown administration, which was all resulted in this Hell in a Cell match being made while, of course, in a Walls of Jericho in a bloody heap, Triple H is screaming his head off. McMahon wanted Jericho to put a stop to Triple H for obvious, familiar reasons, while Jericho, who wanted to prove after his WrestleMania title defeat that he was better than the game at his specialty match. All sounds very, very good, does it not? Let's take a look-see. Both men wail on each other to start, with Triple H hitting a high knee, throwing Jericho around and beating him down like he means nothing. He does mean business, though, as Jericho is then thrown to the outside. Jericho tries to throw Triple H into the cell, but is countered as Triple H goes back to punching Jericho's head in, before a flying forearm stops him in his tracks. Chops ensue, with Triple H rolling out and Jericho's shoulder hitting the steel post. Triple H rams Jericho's head into the cell. Upon ramming Jericho into the wall for a second time, the cell fence cuts Jericho's bicep open, blood pouring out ever so slowly, but it shows already Jericho's got a weak spot, and I love that. Triple H then goes back to clotheslines and punches before a big suplex and a cover for 2. Jericho throws Triple H out of the ring and throws him into the cell wall before Triple H counters and whips Jericho bloody arm first into the steel steps. Triple H lines up a pedigree on the steps, which Jericho counters into a catapult right into the cell wall. Jericho gets a ladder out and nails him right in the head with it, and then grates Triple H's head right across the cell wall, because you can't have a Hell in a Cell match without it. The ladder is then used once again as Triple H is now busted open as he's thrown into the ladder positioned on the turnbuckle. Jericho then calmly drops the ladder onto Triple H's side on the outside of the ring, which, with that scream, it sounded like it hurt Triple H a lot there. You don't get some legit screams, but that ladder must have hurt, I tell you. Triple H then fights out, but is whipped back into the cell again. With Jericho aiming the ladder for a third time, Triple H then slams a steel chair right into it. The chair into the back by Triple H as Jericho punches back and hits a bulldog right on the ladder, where the commentators, JR and King, finally acknowledge that Triple H has been busted open, which isn't very good of you guys, you have the eyes on this thing. Jericho then brings the steps in, but is dropped face first by a drop toe hold onto it, followed by a neck breaker and Triple H's patented facebuster. Triple H then throws the steps right into Jericho's bloody bicep, with Jericho selling the arm well afterwards as he's thrown headfirst into the cell like a javelin. Back into the ring, Triple H whips Jericho, who collides with Tim White on the apron, who goes right into the cell face first. A chair shot by Jericho. He then covers, but of course the referee is out and Jericho, thinking, oh, I just whacked him face first in the head with a chair, I should get the win here, runs out and then proceeds to throw Tim White shoulder first into the cell, which not only at this point shall I note that Tim White is bleeding profusely, but also that is the shot where Tim White's shoulder got dislocated, and that's where his career as a referee all finished, which is not good at all. Back in the ring, Triple H hits a spinebuster as the other referees use bolt cutters to help force their way in. Jericho has a chair kicked into his face as Triple H goes for his lovely sledgehammer. He nails it right in the head and covers, but of course the referee is still out here, and Triple H is really, really angry at this, because who wouldn't be? And now a facially bloody Jericho crawls out and slams the door into Triple H's face. Lovely. Jericho proceeds to rip the Spanish announce table apart, lining up a pedigree, but Triple H fights back and hits DDT through the table to a massive pop. Triple H then crawls over JR and King's table, lifting up a barbed wire 2x4, which... oh, you see that, the crowd go whoo, and I am salivating because you can't go wrong with seeing barbed wire in a hardcore match to show how much you want to beat the crap out of your opponent. It's so fun. Anyway, upon seeing it, Jericho hightails it to get to the top of the cell. Triple H attaches the barbed wire, I should say, to his arm nicely with a belt and climbs up with it. However, it gets up the top before he does, allowing Jericho to nail Triple H right across the back with it. Jericho then locks in a Walls of Jericho on top of the cell, with Mike Chioda having to go up to the top of the cell himself to decide it. Triple H rolls out, of course. Jericho then goes for another barbed wire shot, with Triple H hitting a low blow. He goes for the pedigree, but his back body dropped onto the other panel of the cell, and everyone breathes a sigh of relief as it didn't break through. Thank God. Triple H, he then thinks, you know what, I'm going to nail Jericho right in the centre of his forehead with the barbed wire 2x4. He covers, and Jericho somehow manages to kick out of it. Triple H then hits a pedigree, decisively covers for the 3 for the win at the longest match of the night at 24 minutes and 31 seconds. Now, this match is called the Forgotten Cell match for good reason, because I can see why. It's a good match, but didn't have the biggest build going into it, despite what the awesome video package sold. However, for what it was worth, the match gave an enthralling back and forth story with a lot of blood, and it had a lot of varied weapons being used to good effect. It was a well-paced for its time limit, and Tim White's ref bump while career ending was legendary. However, I could have noticed that everything that could have happened with Tim White could have happened a lot sooner, because it was starting to drag, and the crowd was starting to get a little bored with how repetitive the momentum was shifting and the weapon shots were. But hey, the ref bump woke them up, and they went to the outside and rectified it, so all's well and good. It was overall a very enjoyable match, but like I've said, if the crowd weren't so quiet in the early going, it could have been closer to 4 stars than it actually is. It's a Hell in a Cell match that I will always enjoy. It delivered on its bloody history and gave a great showing from both men. Overall, it's a 3 3/4 star match, and in retrospect, in looking, it's also the match of the night. Which means, ladies and gentlemen, it's all downhill from here. Next up, we have the Tag Team Championship match with Billy and Chuck defending against Rikishi and a mystery partner. Now, Rikishi had been teaming up with various partners in recent weeks in traditional and six-man tag matchups against the incumbent champions and their stylist Rico. Now, Rikishi had to fight against the odds with no partner in a lot of them, and even embarrassed Rico by sitting on his face and pinning him during one of their matches. Ugh, insane. Now, McMahon set the title match for Judgment Day as long as he could pick Rikishi's partner, which turned out to be none other than Rico himself. I will give credit to Rico for looking like he's up for it by doing that boxing stance, but this made no sense at all. And it makes me think, you know what, McMahon probably just did it to fuck with them because, hey, he was the owner of SmackDown, he liked getting his own way and thinking, you know what, I can do something with this. It would be a nice troll move. And it was. Anyway, Rikishi nails both men. We're taking some mighty kicks. But then out of a turnbuckle, both Billy and Chuck hit him with a lovely double flapjack. Rikishi goes for the tag, but Rico is distracted by a fan who gets in an argument with him about his mutton chops on the outside. Chuck then rams and beats down Rikishi in the corner before hitting a lovely overhead belly-to-belly. I've already said in this thing how I love overhead belly-to-belly suplexes, but when you see that Chuck Palumbo is doing this to a near 400-pound Rikishi, that is incredibly impressive. Do not deny it for a second, that is incredible. Billy then hits the Famouser off the tag for 2. Chuck then goes for some clotheslines, almost hits Rico, leading to a belly-to-belly by Rikishi for 2. Rikishi nails Chuck with some punches and a back body drop, followed by a Samoan drop on Billy. Rikishi then sits on Chuck, but Billy saves his partner at 2. Rikishi hits the botched jumping cutter before eating a missile dropkick. Chuck lines up Rico with the assist and a double team, but then Rico nails him with a sick-looking wheel kick. Rikishi then kicks Rico out of the way and covers for 3 and the titles at 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Now, while I will give Billy and Chuck some credit by delivering the best moves of this match, it had nothing else of major substance to start with at all. And sure, Rico assisting in the win was good for psychology, but why was he the mystery partner to begin with? It was just as baffling as the idea of this match even happening to begin with. It was the definition of a throwaway match. And lo and behold, it was a title match with a title change. I don't know. Guys, it gets a 0, and it's possibly the worst match of the evening. But you know what match is coming up, so will it? Let's find out, shall we? Finally, we hit the Undisputed WWE Championship match with Hulk Hogan defending against The Undertaker. Now, Undertaker defeated Stone Cold in that aforementioned match at Backlash to become the #1 contender for the championship. Hogan, despite Taker's interference, won the title from Triple H at the same event. Taker promised to be the judge, jury, and executioner of Hulkamania, just like the poster states, putting an end to this comeback story that everyone has gotten completely invested in. Now, Hogan took no heed to this message, calling Taker a bitch, and proceeded to destroy his $40,000 motorbike by crushing under an 18-wheeler. Taker, incensed by this, thoroughly beat Hogan up in the backstage area before tying him to another motorbike and dragging him through said backstage area, injuring him. Following that, though, on SmackDown, Vince McMahon got in Hogan's face, proclaiming that he agrees with Taker. Hulkamania is dying, and that Hogan himself is no longer the behemoth he once was, and that Hulkamania is a cancer that must be killed, and stating that he created Hulkamania, he can also destroy it and do whatever he wants, noting that Undertaker will bury Hogan at Judgment Day. Well, I'm going to say this now, looking back at it. Vince, up until recently, you would have bent over backwards to keep Hulkamania alive just for some extra money. Kind of amazing how a change in policy and need for money does to you, eh? Anyway, let's see if Taker can, quote-unquote, bury Hulkamania. Taker wails on Hogan with his own weight belt, which he came to the ring with, mind you. Oh, it's just wonderful, isn't it? But Hogan punches back and gives Taker some belt whacks as well, until Earl Hebner, who's just sick of this crap, takes the belt off him and calls for the bell to begin the match. Hogan controls with punches and a back body drop and a clothesline to the outside. Hogan then rips his shirt off and poses for the rabid fans in Nashville. Taker then regains control on the outside but is thrown leg first into the steel steps. Back in the ring, Taker kicks Hogan right in the gut and works the arm with pull blocks and thrusts before lining up an old school before getting pulled down. Hogan hits a superplex for 2. Didn't think he'd actually be able to do it. Anyway, Hogan isn't selling the arm as he whips Taker, who blocks the knee and then targets it with elbows, slamming it into the apron and the steel post. Hogan limps a little bit, but then doesn't, and he then gets cut down with more shots to the leg. Hogan then fights out, again not selling the leg, punching Taker repeatedly, hitting a double axe and a big boot, missing the leg drop that's then counted into a half crab, but Hogan then gets to the ropes. Taker misses the big boot over the top rope as Hogan hulks up and is hit by arguably the worst chokeslam I have ever seen for 2, because he doesn't have the elevation. Literally a slight lift and drop. It's awful. And I'm guessing that's where a lot of you know about this match from. You know where it's coming. Hogan then hulks up with his signature moves, again not selling the leg. He then hits the leg drop, again not selling the leg, but covers, but then Taker kicks out. Hogan can't believe it. He goes for the whip, but then stupidly lowers his head for the DDT. It looks so sloppy. I mean, sure, JR covers, saying it's a real mistake for the veteran. But seriously, it looks so bad. Oh, anyway, he then covers for 2 off the DDT, and Hogan kicks out. Vince McMahon then makes his way to the ring. Hogan kicks a steel chair into Taker's face, with Hebner being distracted, as McMahon gets through that. Hogan then brings McMahon into the ring, hits the leg drop on him, which everyone loves. Taker then whacks Hogan with the chair as Hebner takes McMahon out of the ring, and then hits a choke slam for the win at 11 minutes and 17 seconds to become the undisputed WWE champion. Now, when you look at this match, and who is in it, Hogan, Undertaker, McMahon, 3 of the biggest names in the history of this business. It should have been good, right? Well, you would be wrong, because this match was a one-sided, elongated, unimpressive, slow, boring squash match. Now, while I will give Taker some credit for trying to give this match some flow and some story by working Hogan's arm and leg, Hogan undid it by no-selling and doing his usual shtick. And Taker's offense, while it drove the match, Hogan's felt out of place completely, because Taker was a dominant heel at this point. He had been since November of the previous year. He obviously would have won this thing against an old Hogan who had barely done well against The Rock. So you can see how this pacing just did not work. And while the crowd were into Hogan, I was just disappointed at how limited that Taker's response was here, as well as the fact that the crowd were disappointed at how limited Hogan's offense was. They didn't care for anything in this match apart from McMahon's interference by the time it ended, even though they were getting into the occasional pinfall or 2. Couple in that abysmal chokeslam being a focal point, and this match has really got nothing to recall that makes you think it's actually any good. And while McMahon gave some story by setting up his entire character for the next year, by the fact that Taker, a dominant heel, had to resort to beating Hogan up with a chair to get the victory when he was the most dominant heel in the company at the time, it just didn't make sense. And it just added a bitter cherry on top of this sour cake. And while my ratings factors will dictate that this match deserves a half star, a quarter star, my enjoyment, if I could put it into minus figures, would be there. Because this match doesn't hold up at all. Sure, you've got the crowd and one piece of good psychology in nearly 12 minutes of wrestling, but it won't save this unmitigated disaster of a match. And you know what? It was 11 years prior that Taker and Hogan last faced each other at No Way Out of Texas and the Survivor Series, if I'm not mistaken. The thing is, though, while I'm sure this match helped get some pay-per-view buys, it was a complete letdown. And I'm giving it a big fat 0. And I may be unkind here, but when a match of such apparent magnitude can be so boring and lackluster on the in-ring front, I can't hold back any punches. Was it worse than the tag team match that came before it? That might be pushing it, but still, This match was awful to close out the show. Seriously awful. Ugh. Now, on to my final thoughts. If I did get this for a birthday present, would it be received in good favour? Yes, of course. However, when you look at the show itself, it leaves a lot to be desired. While the opening match was solid and the middle of the card was of consistently increasing quality, the card is let down by some quite poor matches bookending it all. When you have 3 zeros on the card, one of which comes as a result of a wrestler ruining the match's flow and overall storytelling, you know you're in for a rough ride. Sure, the Lesnar tag match was entertaining to a degree, but it doesn't hold up, just like the others. And you know, I will say this event may be a heavy dose of nostalgia for me, but without its filling, this wrestling sandwich could have had the driest outer coating known to man. And thankfully for some good wrestling, this event saved its blushes from something much, much worse than I'm willing to give it here. The WWE era may have started at this event, but this pay-per-view doesn't give the best impression. It's not abominable by any stretch, it has its good moments, but apart from that Hell in a Cell and hair versus hair match that really drew me to the show in the first place 12 or so years ago, you may want to risk caution with the rest of it. Just saying. Judgment Day 2002 therefore gets a rating of 3.75 out of 10. I remember this card being better than this. However, that's what nostalgia will do, make you not see things very clearly. Fans of the Attitude Era, please take note of this. I would appreciate it incredibly. So, there we have it, guys. Another Friday Flashback done, and I hope you've all enjoyed this little trace back to my wrestling viewing roots. What are your thoughts on this pay-per-view? Do you think I was a little harsh on some of the matches? Do you think I was overpraising some of them a bit? What is your overall feeling of this show? And in fact, have you even watched the show yet? Go and put your comments in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you all. And if you want to keep up with the next Friday Flashback, which I will reveal in a bit, as well as all the other content that the CC Network does, from wrestling reviews to video game playthroughs to animation countdowns and reviews, all you have to do is click that subscribe button and I would gratefully appreciate it. And the next Friday Flashback, everybody, is a little bit of a special one. It is going to be Christmas Day. Yes, I'm going to be uploading a video on Christmas Day. I think I did it the last couple of years and it's been brilliant. This time, it's a pay-per-view I am not looking forward to doing, but hey, it got requested. ECW December to Dismember 2006. Oh God. Oh no. Oh God. You all are going to love that one. I am pretty certain. Me? I don't think I will. But it's all for you guys. And I just have to stick my head up and get through it anyway. I have been Freddie Thomas, you've been people listening. This has been another Friday Flashback Wrestling Review for the CC Network. I will see you all next time. Cheers!